Okay, welcome back, students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. We're working on the Chapter 7 drill problems, the odd number problems that were assigned in the study guide. And we're going to pick up where we left off, but I hope that you see that there's a progression here. All right, let me move to the next slide. You'll notice in the first problems here, we were actually calculating our trade discount and our net price, and also our discount percentages. All right, so we were dealing with the dollar amounts. In our next problem, we had the same thing, dealing with the discount amount and the net price. Then in the next problem, and see how this is where the progression comes. Now all of a sudden, instead of just saying this is our discount amount, what we're saying is we're giving terms, and the terms are based upon dates. Okay, either the invoice date or the date of the goods received. So now we started dealing with terms, and we were thinking about, okay, this is the periods that we, that determine the period of time, and what dates we use to determine what our action's going to be as to how much discount we're going to get, right? Then we moved over and started to put that, now we're moving over and starting to put everything all together. So we not only know the amounts, we know the dates, but now we have our terms, and now we know when we're actually going to pay something, so that we can determine what our cash discount is and our net amount is. Right, so with 7-15, our gross amount of the invoice, the freight charge is already included. All right, so this 7,000 has the freight charge already included, and our freight charge is $100. Now, remember, we can't take discounts on freight, right? So you can't just jump over to the 7,000 and say, oh, I'm going to take the discount on the 7,000. No, that's wrong. You have to take the 7,000 and back out the freight charge. In this case, it's $100. So the amount of the sale was actually $6,900. That's the figure we're going to use as far as our discounts are concerned. Okay. Now, the next thing, the date of the invoice here. Before I go any further here, notice that we're using the ordinary method here and the end of month method here. Okay, we're not using the receipt of goods. Why? The receipt of goods, again, is the same as the ordinary method. The only difference being is that you're not using the date of the invoice, you're using the date the date that the goods were received. So it didn't make any sense for me to have the extra problem in here, okay, since we're calculating it the same as the ordinary method. All right, so let's move on. It says our invoice date was 4/8, and the date of the payment, our terms are 2% 10 net 60, meaning we can take a 2% discount if we pay it within 10 days, but if we don't, we have 60 days to pay the invoice in full. After the 60th day, then we end up with interest and penalties. So we decide to pay this invoice on 4/15, right? Well, the difference, the number of days between 4/8 and 4/15 is 7 days, which falls within our discount period of 2% 10. So we're able to take a 2% discount on our $6,900 here. Right? So I take $6,900 and I multiply that by 2%, and that's $138 is what I have for a discount. So my cash discount is $138, and then of course I subtract the 138 from the 6,900, which is, let me get the calculator here. Oops, I'm sorry. It's actually easier to take the 7,000 and subtract the 138. And I end up paying $68.62 as my net amount paid. Okay, and the reason why I used the 7,000 is because, let me erase this. is because I could have taken the 6,900, which is what I originally started thinking about, and then subtracted the 138, and I would have ended up with, oops, let's see here, 6,900 minus 138. I would have ended up with 67.62, but remember, that's off the retail price, the selling price. It doesn't include the $100 in freight. So I would have had to add back in the payment for the freight, and I would have ended up with the same amount of 68.62. Notice, I mean, either way works. You're going to end up with 68.62, but by using the 7,000 and understanding what's included in the 7,000, okay, it was just, I'd saved myself one step. I saved myself a little bit of time because I didn't have to add back in the $100 because it was already included in the 7,000, and all I need to do is just subtract out my discount amount. Okay. All right. So that's how that works. If you have any questions on that, feel free to contact an instructor by phone or by email. Okay. So let me finish this here. Okay, there we go. And let's move on to the 717. Okay, so my gross amount, including freight, is 200, but I have no freight, so I'm going to strictly deal with the 200. Now, my invoice date is 11/13, but my terms are 1% 10 end of month. So when I see end of month, immediately I'm going to start thinking about when the invoice is dated. If it's dated the 25th or sooner, okay, that means I'm going to pay the invoice on the 10th day of the following month. If it's dated the 26th or later, I'm going to pay it the 10th day of not the following month, but the month after that. Okay. So this is dated the 13th, which means I'm going to pay, it's before the 25th, which means I'm going to pay it on the 10th day of the following month. Well, the 10th day of the following, this is November, so that means I'm going to be able to pay it, take the discount by December 10th of the following month. And of course, the entire invoice would be due at the end of the month, which would be December 30th, 30 days, right? December 31st, 31 days in December. Okay, so in determining all of that, let me just quickly recap. The 13th is before the 25th, which means it's due the 10th day of the following month. So this is November, the following month is December on the 10th. That is the amount of the discount period. And I get a 1% discount if I pay it within that amount of time. If I don't, then it's due the last day of that month. Okay. Now, as a quick aside, let's say that this was due, let's say the invoice was dated the 28th. Okay. Well, it's due on the, because this is after, it's the 26th and after, all right, it's after the 25th. That means it gets paid on the 10th day of the month, but it's not paid on the following month, December 10th. It's paid the following month, so you're getting a whole extra month. So the discount period would actually run until January 10th. And then, of course, the invoice would be dated, paid in full on the last day of January, which would be January 31st. Okay? So hopefully you've gotten that, and we'll go back to the problem where we left off. So I have an invoice for $200, and I can take the discount all the way up until December 10th. Well, I made the payment on December 3rd, so I take my $200. I can take the discount of 1%, which is $20. I'm sorry, which is $2, right? $2. And then I take the $200, I subtract the $2, and I end up owing $198. Okay, so my cash discount would be $200, and my net pay would be, well, my net amount would be $198. All right. I could have alternatively, all right, I could have said, okay, I had $200, and if I had a 2% discount, the inverse of that, the complement of that, is 98, right? Right, 2% from 100% is 98. So I could have multiplied the $200 by 98%, and I'm sorry, 1% I'm looking at here, 99%. Sorry about that. I'm looking at the wrong numbers. So that's 99%, and that would have given me $198 also. Okay, that's just an alternative way of doing that problem. Right? So let's see here. We have one more problem. Actual partial payment. Invoice dated, actual partial payment, date of the partial payment, amount of payment to be credited, and the balance outstanding. Okay, so let me think about this here for 1 second. Amount of payment to be credited. 2%, 10. All right. I'm going to end this video and pick up with this video, do this last problem for the drill problems in the next video.